India, a country where a person who can do his signature or write his name is considered educated. Yep, that's right. And these same standards apply to the people who are leading our nation. So, hello guys, welcome back to my another YouTube video where I explain things weirdly, not because I want it, because you like it. First, let's begin with what it takes to become a member of parliament or a member of legislative assembly in this country. According to our constitution, you need to pass these three criterias. First, be a citizen of this country, at least have the minimum age to participate, which is 25 years old for Lok Sabha and 30 years old for Rajya Sabha. And lastly, not to be disqualified under certain grounds like being of unsound mind or holding an office of profit. Don't worry, past police cases and criminal records might impact if you are applying for a government job. But to actually run the government, you need to have a criminal background or a couple of criminal cases. But we are gonna cover this later in this video. So that's basically it. No educational qualification, no competency test, no proof that you understand economics, law or governance. You could be completely illiterate and still make laws for 1.4 billion people. Now, let's go ahead and look at the data shared by the Association of Democratic Reforms. In the current Lok Sabha, year 2024, around 77% of MPs have a graduate degree or higher. That sounds pretty good, right? But wait, that means 23% of our parliamentarians have education below graduation level. Let me break this down further. Only 65 MPs have studied up to class 12th, 34 MPs have studied up to class 10th, 6 MPs, which is just over 1%, have studied up to class 5 or class 8, 1 MP declared himself as just literate. I mean, he could sign, so yeah, just literate. And 17 MPs are diploma holders. So, in total, 105 MPs, that's 19% of our parliament, have education ranging from class 5 to class 12th. These are people making laws on complex economic policies. Now, let's hop on to some great leaders and what their knowledge and ideas look like. Nitish Kumar, the current CM of Bihar, explained birth control like this.
कि वो करेगा ठीक है, लेकिन अंतिम में भीतर मत घुसाओ, उसको बाहर कर दो.
Then we have Mrs. Rekha Gupta, the current Chief Minister of Delhi, who says AQI is a temperature.
और AQI एक ऐसा आपका टेम्परेचर है.
Dr. Satyapal Singh, the ex-Union Minister, saying, I don't believe in Darwin's theory. And at last, Dr. Gaurav Bhatia, the spokesperson for a political party who just doesn't like to wear pants for some reason.
Oh my God.
But these leaders are educated. Our Nitish Kumar sir holds degree in electrical engineering, Rekha Gupta ji in LLB, Dr. Satyapal sir is PhD, and Gaurav Bhatia. I don't talk about people who don't wear pants. If educated leaders talk like this, just imagine how great our illiterate leaders are. Or let me just give you some examples. Remember Abu Azim from Samajwadi Party? This guy once said that women are equally responsible for rape cases. Or do you remember Pragya Thakur, who said cow urine cured her cancer? Now this is the best one. Ashok Sinha, the man, the myth, who once said on the live television that cow dung can save you from nuclear radiation. And the reply that he got will always be remembered as the best comeback.
ने उत्तर दिया कि आप खाई खोदिए, ऊपर बल्लियां रखिए, पत्ते रखिए और गाय का गोबर 1.5 फीट ऊपर लेयर लगा दीजिए तो आप रेडिएशन से बच जाएंगे. एटॉमिक एनर्जी के रेडिएशन से गाय का गोबर बचाता है.
एटॉमिक अटैक से बचना है तो गाय का गोबर लीक
तो
नहीं.
ये मुझे वैज्ञानिकों ने बताया कि हमने कहा हम कैसे बाहर हैं, उनका शरीर पर मल लीजिए गोबर, आप लीजिए.
एक बात सर बता दूं, इन्होंने बताया गाय का गोबर लपेट लेने से ये होता है, बिछा लेने से ये होता है. सर एक रिसर्च ये नहीं बता पाए थे, इन्होंने पढ़ी नहीं वो लाइन, ये भूल गए थे, जल्दी जल्दी आ गए. आधा किलो गाय का गोबर अगर ये खा लें तो दिमाग भी बढ़ता है सर.
And behind all these small fishes, there's a bigger fish who says he's not even biological. These statements might seem funny, but these are not the regular people from street. These are people who take decisions, make policies and laws for you. Now let's talk state level. Kerala. It has one of the highest percentages of educated MLAs in India. Over 80% of Kerala's legislators have graduate degrees or higher. Many have professional qualifications in law, medicine, engineering, or hold master's degree. And what do we see in Kerala? The state has one of the highest literacy rate in India at around 94%. Best healthcare indicators, lowest infant mortality, highest life expectancy, better infrastructure. I know many must be thinking Kerala is on top of crime rate and drug abuse. Well, so is USA. I know these things impact the society, but education is the only step to start with. Now, let's look at the other end. States like Uttar Pradesh, Bihar have among the highest percentages of MLAs with minimal education. In some assemblies, nearly 30 to 40% of MLAs have education below class 12. And what's the result? Both states, Bihar and UP, consistently rank at the bottom of education indices, healthcare, per capita income, and human development indicators. Rampant corruption, crumbling infrastructure, failed implementation of government schemes like PDS, and many more. What it portrays. When educated legislators debate a health policy, they understand epidemiology, healthcare systems, and evidence-based medicine. When uneducated MLAs debate the same, they talk about cow urine and religious rituals. When educated ministers plan infrastructure, they study feasibility reports, environmental impact, and long-term sustainability. When uneducated ministers plan infrastructure, they choose contractors based on who paid the highest bribe, and we get bridges that collapse within months or days. People say we are the largest democracy, so let's compare it with some of the major democracies. In the US Congress, over 95% have college degrees. In the UK Parliament, similar numbers. Even in China's National People Congress, 90% have university degrees. Why is it the major problem? Let me paint you a picture. Imagine you're in a hospital for a critical surgery, and halfway through, you discover your surgeon learned everything from YouTube videos. Terrifying, right? That's basically what's happening with India's governance. Let's talk about some bad decisions first. When politicians don't understand basic economies, they make populist promises that sound great but destroys the economy. For example, the farm loan waivers. Sounds charitable, right? But here's what uneducated politicians don't understand. When you waive loans worth thousands of crores, banks lose money, credit culture collapse, and future lendings become harder. Farmers who actually repay loans feels cheated. The cycle of debt continues. In the year 2008, several states announced massive farm loan waivers, a noble gesture by leaders who wanted to help farmers or increase their vote banks. But what actually happened? Within a few years, the same farmers were back to ground zero because the root problems weren't solved. An educated policymaker would have known that you need to fix the irrigation problem, provide better seeds, create market access, and reform agriculture practices. But that requires understanding complex systems. It's easier to just waive loans and win election. Or take the demonetization decision in 2016. Now, I'm not here to debate whether it was right or wrong, but let's talk about execution, the chaos that followed, the lack of preparation, the suffering of common people. The decision itself says that it was not made without knowing the ground reality. When your cabinet doesn't have enough people who understand economics, banking systems, and digital infrastructure, what you get is a policy disaster. Now, let's talk about what actually grinds my gear: corruption. Here's a mind-blowing stat. According to ADR data from the 2024 Lok Sabha elections, 46% of MPs have declared criminal cases against them. That's a total of 251 out of 543 MPs, in which 31% have serious criminal cases like rape, murder, attempt to murder, kidnapping, and crimes against women. And when you look at the data, there are clear patterns suggesting correlations between lower educational background and higher instances of criminal cases. How many of you remember the Vayapam scam in Madhya Pradesh? Over 2,000 crores vanished, 40 deaths, and a web of corruption in medical and engineering entrance exams. The politicians involved could not even explain what due process meant, but they knew exactly how to make money from students' desperation. Or the Bihar stopper exam in 2016, the girl who said political science is about cooking.
पॉलिटिकल साइंस या नया सब्जेक्ट हम सुन रहे क्या चीज़ है?
खाना बनाने के बारे में
पॉलिटिकल साइंस में खाना बनाने में बताया जाता है.
She was declared as a state topper. How does this happen? Because the education ministers and officials overseeing these systems often don't value education since they themselves lack it. How about the Commonwealth Games scam of 2010? Over 70,000 crores spent and Delhi got incomplete flyovers, leaking roofs, collapsing infrastructure, and that's not it. In this mind-boggling scam, toilet papers were priced at $80, soap dispensers at $60, mirrors at $220, and altitude simulators, which were supposed to be $11,800, were priced at $250,000, causing the budget to balloon from $412 million to $6 billion. Here's the thing about corruption. Educated criminals are sophisticated. They hide money in offshore accounts and use legal loopholes. But uneducated corrupt politicians, they are brazen. Cash in suitcases, properties under the name of relatives, and even zero attempt to hide that properly. That's why every year in IT raids, crores are found, sometimes stashed in mattresses and underground tanks. India has been talking about labor reforms from decades. We have laws from the 1950s that don't make any sense in 2025. But changing them requires politicians to actually read, understand, and debate complex legislation. When your parliamentarians struggle to read the bills they are voting on, reform becomes impossible. Forget about bills, some of them can't even take their oath properly.
मैं भागीरथी देवी योगदान सभा के सदस्य उम्मीदवार निर्वाचित हुई हूँ हुआ हूँ.
This is the reason why GST took 17 years to implement. 17 years. Why? Because building consensus requires understanding economics, federal structures, and tax systems. When legislators don't grasp these concepts, every reform becomes a nightmare. Land acquisition laws, agricultural reforms, education policies, you name it. Everything moves at a snail's pace because the people who are meant to pass these laws don't understand them. They rely completely on the bureaucrats who often have their own agendas. Let me give you an example for this as well. The National Education Policy 2020 was finalized after years of consultation. It's actually a well thought out document, but implementation, that happens at the state level. And when your state education minister doesn't understand the difference between rote learning and conceptual learning, how will they implement it? Now, let's go back to some of these highly literate people. Sadhvi Pragya claimed how cow urine cured her cancer, or when Sambit Patra said cow dung is more valuable than the Kohinoor diamond. These aren't just funny memes. These people influence health and science understanding for a billion people. That's why during COVID-19 we saw the real cost of unscientific leadership. While some states with educated health ministers quickly setting up testing facilities, contact tracing system, and medical infrastructure, other states saw leaders suggesting unproven remedies. The difference in death rates and case management was stark. Or take environmental policy. When your environment minister doesn't understand climate science, you get policies that prioritize short-term profit over long-term sustainability. Coastal areas get destroyed by unchecked construction, rivers get polluted beyond repair, and when God disasters strike, the same minister blame it on God's will or LGBT people having sex.
यदि दो पुरुष या दो स्त्री आपस में साथ रहकर सुखी हैं तो हमें और आपको क्या एतराज है?
इसीलिए भूकंप आता है.
अबे साले
This is not a small problem, it's a cycle. When politicians don't get value education, they cut educational budget. Schools crumble, teachers don't get paid, and another generation grows up without opportunities. This creates a vicious cycle. Uneducated politician elects uneducated leaders who keeps the population uneducated. Communal riots in the past 2 decades have increased significantly. In most cases, local political leadership either fuel the fire or fail to control it because they lack the education to understand the consequences of their actions and words. The violence and communal hatred we see today is directly linked to political leadership that doesn't understand or doesn't care about social cohesion. When your MLA gives hate speech because that's the only way he knows to stay relevant, society pays the price in blood. Lynchings, mob violence, vigilante justice, all of this flourishes when political leadership doesn't set the right tone. Now you must be wondering why these kind of people keep on getting elected. Well, there are many reasons. First, There's identity politics. In India, many voters don't ask what's your qualification. They ask, are you from my caste, my religion, my region? A candidate who can barely sign his name gets elected because he belongs to the right community. Politicians exploit this brilliantly, turning every election into an identity battle. Second, there's the favor system. That illiterate MLA might not understand economic policy, but he'll get your son a government job through backdoor channels. He'll show up at your wedding with an envelope. He'll help you get a ration card or file a police complaint, which 80% of Indians can't do without getting help from a powerful person. Third, fear and fame. Some voters actually prefer candidates with criminal backgrounds or a person who has a star image. Why? Because they see him as a powerful strong man who gets things done. In areas where state machinery is weak, people want a local don who can protect them. It's a feudal mindset that refuses to die. The latest example was Vijay. When he decided that he will fight election, people supported him blindly and 41 people lost their life in just his rally. Fourth, party loyalty. You might hate your local candidate, but you love Modi or Rahul or Kejriwal or whoever. So you vote for the party, not the person. The candidate could be a criminal with fake degrees, but the party symbol matters more. Now, the most important question: how can we change this system? Hear me out. Before you jump to conclusions, anyone who wants to run a parliament or state legislator should at least have a graduation degree or equivalent qualification, and they should pass a basic competency test covering the Indian Constitution and fundamental rights, basic economics and public finance, current affairs and governance system, critical reasoning and problem solving. Sounds radical? It shouldn't. We require college degrees for teachers, doctors, engineers, even security guards. But to run a country, anyone can apply. That's insane. I know what you're thinking. This is elitist. But actually, it's not. Education is really cheap in India at a ground level, and graduation degree from IGNOU doesn't cost a lot of money. If someone has real-world experience and knowledge but lack a formal degree, let them prove it through standardized testing, which at least the major parties should introduce in their system. Someone who's self-educated and brilliant should absolutely be able to enter politics, but they should be able to demonstrate the knowledge objectively. Now, what this would change? Imagine a parliament where every single member understands how laws are made, how the economy works, how policies affect people. Imagine debates based on facts and logic, not rhetoric and drama. Imagine MLAs who can actually read and understand the bills instead of just pressing buttons based on their party orders. Imagine the signal it would send to society that in India knowledge matters, competence matters. Will this eliminate corruption? No. There are plenty of highly educated corrupt politicians. We all know that. But education makes a difference. Educated politicians are more likely to understand long-term consequences, more likely to value institutions, and more likely to be held accountable by an informed public. But the bottom line is this: India is trying to become a developed nation by 2047. We are competing with China, which has educated, technocratic leadership. We are dealing with artificial intelligence, climate change, economic transformation, and complex geopolitics. India has incredible potential. We have a young population, a growing economy, and democratic institutions. But all of that means nothing if our leadership is incompetent. We cannot afford to have leaders who don't understand these issues. We cannot afford another generation of bad decisions, rampant corruption, failed policies, and social chaos. So for next election, be prepared, do your homework, check your candidate's educational qualification on the Election Commission website. Check their criminal record, check their asset declarations. Vote for competency, vote for integrity, vote for people who are actually qualified to govern, and beyond voting, support electoral reforms. Sign petitions demanding minimum qualifications, use social media to call out unqualified candidates, put pressure on your representatives to bring these reforms. So I think that's it for this video. Do you really support minimum qualification and entrance test for politicians? What do you want to change about the electoral system? Let me know in the comment section. And if this video made you think differently about politics, hit that like button and subscribe.